Perfect. All right. Thank you, everybody, again for joining us in today's webinar that will be about employment scams briefly, and then we'll get to know Canadian North, wonderful Canadian employer. So starting with the employment scams, I'm not going to go over the entire slides deck here just for the sake of time. So we're just going to go over a few that are important, and then I'm going to share a resource with you at the end so you could read more about employment scams. So we wanted to do a presentation about employment scams because unfortunately we're seeing a rise in employment scams in the job market here in Canada. It's really, really important to be mindful, and especially the scammers would prey on vulnerable populations like international students or new permanent residents. So it's really, really important to be mindful, use your critical thinking and judgment before you just go ahead and sign an offer or send any sensitive information to an employer. So just starting with some common red flags when identifying employment scams. Some of this is from our research, but some of this is also from stories that some of our clients recounted in the past. So did you see many typos in an employer's email or the contract or whatever document they send you? Just think twice and do the research. And also, a lot of scammers would sort of have a fast track towards employment. I've gotten clients who did not interview for a role, but they still got an offer, right? So pay attention to that. Like if it's too good to be true, probably is. Especially if there's no interview, or sometimes they would fake an interview. They would have a brief interview just to make it sound legitimate. And I see in the comments that somebody's not hearing me well. Andrea, just checking if you could hear me well. Good. Okay. Or yeah, probably disconnect the audio and connect it. So again, probably that would help. If not, you will get to see the recording afterwards. Also a higher wage than usual. So sometimes for entry-level role or between entry-level and mid-level, and you will see like $30, $40 an hour. So always think twice and do your research. And sometimes unusual requests like depositing a check before you even sign an offer, and then to buy equipment, and then you're asked to transfer some. Trust me, most likely that is a fraudulent check. So it's always important to pay attention to that. Sometimes they will ask you to log in from your employer email through like a third-party website, like privateemail.com. This was actually asked to a client of ours as well. Or in case you're asked to pay anything upfront, that definitely is a scam. So definitely do your research to confirm. I'm going to talk about that next in the next slide. All right, so some tips and resources. Just research the company online. I'm going to show some examples in the next few slides just to have an idea on how you could do your research yourself. There's the Better Business Bureau, and they accredit many businesses and nonprofits. So always go and do the research there, or the local yellow pages. Sometimes there will be companies based in the US and they would offer remote roles to Canadian residents. So always pay attention to do the research. Let's say an example, like a client was contacted by this company in Houston, Texas. Go to the local pages there in Houston, Texas, and look for the company. And also you could look at the domain name if you're comfortable with that. If you have an IT background or not, you could just go and check when the domain name started. And then sometimes, unfortunately, scammers don't just use fake companies, like they pick real companies, and unfortunately they set up certain layers of communication to make sure that it's legitimate. Sometimes they would go ahead and create a LinkedIn account that is fake, but they would state that they're working at that company. Again, pay attention to the red flags like typos, higher wage than usual, and verify the authenticity. We had a client who received an offer from an employer on LinkedIn, so he contacted an HR officer with the company on LinkedIn, and they confirmed that no, like we have never extended this offer. So they confirmed that it was actually a scam. So always do your due diligence. You could check Google reviews and always double check with pre-arrival or post-arrival employment counseling counselors when in doubt. I've gotten quite a few clients who would consult with me. Is this a scam? It's not. Trust me, 100% of those cases when they were in doubt, they were scams. Right. So now these are just a few really, we do have a few minutes. So real examples from employment scam attempts from past clients. So this is the first example. So we got a client. So the candidate received, or our client received an email from a company regarding a vacancy. And this usually happens because some people post their resumes on Indeed or Monster, they make it public. So that definitely gives, gives that to the scammers as well, unfortunately. And then the candidate replied by sending their resume to that vacancy, and then they received this email. So usually what we want, we're not going to read it in depth, but they would put a sense of urgency, usually like, please return the document within this day. And you will see some typos in the document as well. Like sometimes the file is not open. Instead of does not open, on HR manager with a hyphen and M is lowercase. So always pay attention to these nuances. And when I Googled the company, first thing is you see it's a scam. So people already, they noticed that it was a scam. So always do your research. Many people report scams, and you should too. I will share with you a SOPA blog article actually that talks about employment scams, and there's a resource where you could also report employment scams. The second example, the company Snow Coral Investment, the candidate never applied, or client never applied for this role, but they still received an email. Congratulations, I removed the name, you're pre-accepted. Like, that is not a thing, trust me. You never get pre-accepted for a job. You can be pre-approved for a credit card or some mortgage line, but not for a job. So again, always, anything that is out of the ordinary is, always double check and do your research. The other example is a company, Formox Metal Industries. And actually, I worked with this client. So the client applied for a role at this company. They even created a website, and they received an email to schedule a virtual interview. And then the client received a document on the right, just put the first page there. And it didn't make sense, like $35 USD for, an entry-level role. And everything looked fine, like they liked the person and they just wanted to extend an offer and then proceed right away. And the emails from the company were full of typos as well. It was not realistic. So when I did the research, then they had a functioning website. But then when I did right before this presentation, it was taken down, thankfully. And when I Googled the name of the company, so what they did, they took the name of an actual company, and then they just switched one letter, right? So instead of Formox, and then they kept the colors blue, so they really would try to trick you to think that it's that actual company. So then again, when you Google the name of the company, you would most likely would see a scam. So already people reported it. And so again, go to the business bureau and pick the city. It has 3 countries, I believe, US, Canada, and Mexico. You can pick the country, the city, and put the name. If there's no result, most likely it's not there. The local pages in Houston, Texas. Again, it didn't set 80 that were relevant, but not the actual company. And so I will share this with you as well. So the Better Business Bureau, so they do have a scam tracker. I will send you the link, and there's employment scams. There's many types of scams, but just select employment here in the filters, and I'll share this blog with you after I turn it over to my colleagues, so that way you can go ahead and read more in depth about employment scams, because unfortunately, we do not have a lot of time for that. But in the future, we will talk about scheduling a session, a webinar just for to cover employment scams. Right, so I believe that we reached the end of the presentation. We're going to skip the Q&A until the end. And Danielle, without further ado, take it away. Thank you very much.
Sounds good. I'm just going to share my screen and I'll make sure that everybody can see it before we do dive in.
All right. I can on my end. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So we can see my screen so we can get started. So I'm not sure how many people know about Canadian North, but by this image, I'm sure you're probably aware of what we do as a company. We are an aviation company. So this is actually a pretty cool photo of one of our planes landing in Iqaluit. I'm very curious to learn if anybody here knows where Iqaluit, Nunavut is. If you don't, that's okay. But essentially, we are an airline that flies the north. So we fly very, very high where it's cold. The geography of Canada has, the north and the south. So where Ottawa would be kind of the south, and then the north would be Nunavut, Northwest Territories, and all of those small communities in the northern hemisphere. So definitely get yourself a little bit oriented with that. But in terms of the population, it's a very different type of living. It's very cold. So if you like the cold, it's definitely a good place for you. But yeah, this is a really cool photo. I like to just show this one as the kind of initial kickoff of who we are, because it's a very good depiction of snow and planes when it comes to our airline. And then in terms of who I am, so my name is Danielle, and I'm really happy to be here today, and I'm one of the HR coordinators. So my role is essentially making sure that we find a job for you. You know, we have lots of different opportunities available, and we have a large presentation today, but I really want to get to what we do have available in terms of positions, because I think that that's important to give you a good understanding of what we can offer. But I'm all about matching people and figuring out what best place we can fit them in our organization. So even if we don't have something available right now, we still want to hear from you, and maybe we can, you know, build that connection to get something in the future. But essentially, like I said, we are a airline. We fly the north. We don't fly anywhere like down south, so we don't do Ottawa, Toronto, Edmonton. We only do things that go directly up north. So I'll dive in to tell you a little bit about the history. This might not be the most fun information, but please definitely stay tuned, because then we'll get to the end of what we do have available, and then I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have at the end as well. So just kind of letting you know who we are. So we are the coolest airline in Canada. I know that's kind of funny, but basically because we fly the north, we have lots of different, you know, companies that are aware of us, and we go to all those cool destinations that not a lot of airlines go to. So we're the main carrier to the north. So we take our responsibility for providing safe and reliable air transportation very seriously, and we cover about 40% of Canada's land mass. So that's massive, and larger than all handful of countries in the world. So we are our greatest influence on Canada's North success is through energy, dedication, and diversity of our team, and we all contribute specifically to the growth and success. So we hope that if you do decide to be interested in our company, that you would also take pride in joining our team. In terms of our history, so we're very unique because we have started so long ago, in the late 1940s, but we started more as Bradley Air Services, and this was through this individual called Russell Bradley. And he started in Ottawa, so we are an Ottawa-based company, which aviation not very common for being an Ottawa-based company. A lot of aviation is more in Toronto or Calgary or that type of stuff, but our headquarters is here. And he was more, so Russ Bradley was an innovator. So he basically developed these balloon tundra tires, which made the ability to fly in the north. So it revolutionized Arctic flying, meaning that it gave the ability to fly in the north and land on ice. Because if, like I said, it's cold, not every single airplane can actually fly and land on these tarmacs, because they're gravel or they're full of ice. So we need specific planes and specific tires to be able to land. So he revolutionized this. He started this, and then it made the ability to land in the high Arctic. So then a few short decades after he invented this, we became the Bradley Air Services, which was the biggest airline in the Arctic. And then that's when we became First Air. So that if you've been in Ottawa, if you grew up in Ottawa, you might see this name because we were the only airline of the North in Ottawa. And then through a series of kind of acquisitions, we actually became a larger fleet. So we got more route systems. We started flying to the Northwest Territories. So we were only doing kind of Nunavut. And then we became Canadian North in about 2019. We merged with a company that was out west. So Canadian North was out west, First Air was more in the east, and then we became one to fly the whole Arctic. So we fly to about 18 different destinations amongst Northwest Territories and Nunavut, and we do our southern gateways, like I said, from Ottawa or Edmonton, and we go directly up north. So that's a little bit of our history. So we've been around for quite some time, but the Canadian North name, so our new logo, so this one that you see here is actually as of 2019. So First Air and Canadian North became one company. So who we are and what we do, here are some lovely photos of our team members in different departments. So you're going to see as we go through the presentation that we have many different departments. People often think, hey, you work for an airline, you must be a pilot or you must be a flight attendant. No. We have opportunities in every single department. And you don't need to necessarily have that pilot license, or like I'm not a pilot, I'm not a flight attendant, right? I am an administrative person. So it doesn't matter necessarily your background. But these are some cool photos. We have pilots, we have maintenance engineers, we have dispatch, so those who kind of dispatch those flights. And yeah, this is a really cool photo. So where we fly, this is kind of small, you probably won't be able to read it, but if you this is on our website if you wanted to go take a look at it. You can see here, oh, can you see my mouse moving? No? Okay. Well, you can see that we have Edmonton, Winnipeg, Ottawa, and Montreal as our southern gateways, and then we do we go directly up north. So you can see all the different communities that we service, and there's about 25 different different destinations within the northern hemisphere. So Nunavut, and the Northwest Territories. Like I said, if you're not familiar with where that is on a map, definitely go check that out. But that's where we go. A lot of different airlines, they fly to, the US or the Europe, or they go across the world. We don't do that. We only fly within Canada. So you will never see our planes overseas or in the US per se. Our brand. So this logo that we have is super, super near and dear to my heart. And it's kind of what we philosophize our company on. So our brand shows an Arctic symbol, the Inukshuk. I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with what an Inukshuk is, but if you're not, the logo is basically representing Inuit elders. So Inuit is our main kind of culture that we service in the north, and these are the type of people who live in the north. They're Inuit, and we are an Inuit-owned company. So one of the elders kind of through the design process said that this is, we never go anywhere without an Inukshuk showing the way. So as a company, we wanted to make sure that this was on our logo, to make sure that we're showing the way to people who fly the northern Arctic. So this is pretty cool in terms of our brand. So our mission, vision, and values. So we represent by 3 different things. So mission, vision, and values. So our mission is to meaningfully improve the lives of our people, our customers, and the communities that we serve. And I'll kind of dive in more during the presentation on the communities that we serve and why this is important. And then our vision is to be respected within Canada's North as a dynamic and caring airline, diversifying to serve other geographies and markets by leveraging our skills and resources. And then our values, which is very, very important to us, is safety, integrity, teamwork, innovation, service excellence, community, and respect. And I will say that, working at Canadian North, I see these values fostered every single day. Aviation is a very safe, dominant organization and industry, so it's super, super important that we foster safety as our #1 priority. There's 3 different business units. So we have our scheduled services. So when we say the word scheduled services, we think of passenger travel. So you want to fly to the north for a vacation. You'll go to the airport, you'll check in for your flight. And this is a photo of our Ottawa terminal, actually. So scheduled services, we have scheduled services every single day from Ottawa to Iqaluit. And then as well Edmonton to Yellowknife and all across the north. We have a fleet that operates every single day, lots of planes going. Then we have our charter services. So this is essentially renting an aircraft on a temporary basis. So, it's not the cheapest deal that you're going to get if you want to rent an aircraft. We do have the ability for companies to rent our aircraft to transport their staff. So we have a whole charters department. And then cargo. So this is a super essential service where we deliver freight within our network. So we move cargo, meaning essential goods and services, food. When it came to COVID, any vaccination, any masks, anything that needs to go to the north that can't go by car, we deliver through the plane. And we are essentially the lifeline to the north through our cargo operations. So anybody who lives in Nunavut, there's no road access, so they need to go by plane. So this is why we, as an airline, are so integral to the north, because we move all of these things, scheduled, charter, and cargo, super, super efficiently, and it's a large essential service. So scheduled services and cargo. So I just want to kind of give some examples on this as well. So living in Ottawa, we have the ability to go to the hospital. We have the ability to go to the grocery store. We have everything at our fingertips, right? It's super easy to get things, but in the north, they don't have the same ability. And like I said, everything moves through planes as well as people. And when you think of people, there's medical things that come up, right? For you and I, we can go to the hospital. It takes us 10 minutes to go to the hospital, but for someone in the north, they have to use a plane to get to the hospital. So they have to use our operation, and we have a large medical travel operation where we ensure that people are getting to Ottawa or Edmonton or anywhere down south where they can get these services when it comes to a medical perspective. So think of someone who, is having a baby, and they're living in the north. It's not very simple, right? They need to make sure that they're coming down to Ottawa to deliver their baby if there's complications, things like that. So it's a super, super essential service. And during COVID, we actually didn't stop operating. We continued to fly. We were the only airline in the air really flying during this time. But this gives you a good perspective of what I mean by scheduled services and cargo, is that we are delivering the things to the people in the north every single day. And yeah, think of food, think of anything that needs to go into their grocery stores, it goes on our planes. And that's how it gets up there. So I find that pretty neat, and it's super, super meaningful to be able to provide these resources to the north. And to give you a perspective, we ship probably hundreds of thousands of pounds of cargo a day. So over that on an aircraft every single day. And here's a photo. So the bottom right photo, you can see there's some packages in the plane, and then they're loading the cargo onto the aircraft, or off the aircraft onto a truck, and then the truck would deliver it in the community. But yeah, it's pretty interesting when you think about it, right? Not everybody has it as easy as we do, getting it right to our doorstep. And then charters, like I said, we partner with different organizations to transport their employees. This is actually a really cool one. We have the CFL contract, so we provide operating for all of this Canadian Football League. So the players, Ottawa Blacks, Toronto Argonauts, like all those teams, we actually provide the transportation. So they would rent our aircraft basically, and it's an example of what charters is. I'd like to take a second to talk about community investments, because we are so big on community. We fly the communities, we ensure that people are happy in the communities. And this is a photo that we did a big toy drive. And if you Google Canadian North, the toy drive will probably come up. And it's basically an initiative that our community investments team started, where we made sure that kids got Christmas gifts in the north. So like I said, they don't have a Toys R Us like we do. They don't have a Mastermind Toys. They can't just go get toys. So we started this initiative where we wanted to give back to the communities by donating toys to the north. And Shelley, who's in this photo, you probably can't see, but she had an experience where she's our director of sales. And she went up in the north, and she went up to a kid and she said, what do you want for Christmas? And they said, oh, I just want a bear or a Build-A-Bear or something of that nature. And so she made it her priority that the kid was going to get a bear, that the kid was going to get a Christmas gift under the Christmas tree. So we started this initiative, I think in 2019 or maybe 2018, just before COVID. And then we made sure that we partnered with Mastermind Toys, and we made sure that all the kids got their gifts. So we did a big community tour, and we delivered different gifts through all the community. So it's super, super meaningful. Here's another kind of photo just on community investments. We're very big on, gathering around food and getting people in the community. So here's some examples of what we've done. This is our fleet. So it has changed a little bit because we have bought some new aircraft since this presentation in 2021. But we basically have, I don't know how many aviation geeks we have in this presentation, but we basically have Boeing 737s and ATR 42. So here are some photos of these aircraft. So the ATRs are smaller aircrafts than the Boeing 737. So the Boeing 737s are jet aircrafts. Will fly from Ottawa to Iqaluit, for example, and this can carry up to 100 passengers. And we also have combi configuration. So the cool thing about these combis is, as you can see, there's some that are written as combis and some that aren't, is that we can do half cargo and half passenger. So the plane is essentially cut in two. So the back will be all passenger and the front will be all cargo, because like I said, it's integral that we deliver the goods and services to the north. So these aircrafts give that configuration the ability to do so. So it's a very unique aircraft aircraft configuration that a lot of airlines do use, but we have that. We do have full passenger flights as well, but we don't have just cargo. We only have the combis. And then our ATR 42, so these would be in the smaller northern communities that these smaller aircrafts go, because they can land on gravel. And like I said, we have inherited two 737-700s. So these are just a little bit larger aircrafts, and we've actually been flying these for a little bit now. So we are looking to expand our fleet. Right now, I think we have about, I might be telling a small lie here, but I think we have about 30 aircrafts, but we are looking to expand our fleet for sure. So our offices, so like I said, we do have a headquarters in Ottawa. So Canada is actually our main administrative office. That's where my office would be if I was in office, but I'm not in my home, but that's where our main headquarters is. And then we do have, so in Ottawa, we have our main headquarters in Canada, but then we also have offices at the cargo warehouse that are at the Ottawa airport. And then we have other operations. So in Calgary and Edmonton is more of our operations offices, and then our northern regional offices we have in Iqaluit and Yellowknife. And as you can see, here's a map of just kind of what that looks like and where all of our offices are based on Canada. So we cover all of Canada, and we have offices throughout. Okay, so our different positions that we have available. So now it's kind of the time that I get to talk about what we have. So please definitely pay attention to this part. In terms of position, so like I said, you think pilot, flight attendant when you think of working for an airline. So we do have pilot positions that are available. So obviously there's requirements that come with being a pilot, but we are primarily hiring on our ATR aircraft. So those are our smaller aircrafts that fly the north, and it is a rotational 2 weeks on, 2 week off position. You would live in staff housing, all that fun stuff. So that's kind of what we have for pilots. Flight attendants, we're not currently hiring for. However, please encourage you to send an email if you are interested in becoming a flight attendant. We do kind of save resumes in an applicant pool, and then when we have a position that comes available, we would do that. There is a requirement for that role as well, and you are required to pass a course, which we would provide you all the information. But like I said, we're not currently hiring, but if you have experience and you were previously a flight attendant, we do definitely like to see that. And same thing with pilot. And just to give anybody who might be a pilot an understanding, we do look for a minimum of 1,500 hours so of flying time, which is quite significant, but that's, you know, what we would be looking for to get you onto our fleet. Maintenance and engineering, so like a car, you know, you need to fix your car, you need to fix your airplane, but these are definitely a little bit more difficult to fix, and we do need your requirements to be able to fix these as well. So we do have different technician aircraft positions that we have open across our network. We have some in Ottawa, Edmonton, Calgary, and then as well as some higher level engineering positions too. So definitely, if you have any experience in aircraft maintenance engineering, you know, please feel free to send us your resume and we can see where it fits for you. But these are very unique and specialized roles that, you know, you do need that experience for, of course, where our other operations or our commercial operations, like I said, our cargo or our customer service agent, we don't necessarily need you to have experience. This is where it's more of a, you know, get your foot in the door, and we would teach you, we provide training. We have a 3-week training program that we offer for everybody too. So we do have a big pool of looking for candidates for the Ottawa cargo attendant position in Ottawa, and this is a part-time job. So it is anywhere between 24 to 34 hours per week. It is shift work, so totally being honest, you are required to work evenings, weekends, holidays, overnights. You know, you will be scheduled a little bit all over the place, but we do provide a schedule 1 month in advance. So that's the nice thing, is that although it is shift work, you do get a nice schedule in advance, and it's all done based on seniority. So, you know, coming in at the lowest, unfortunately, you will get what people necessarily don't want, or maybe it's what you do want, right? Everybody lives a different life, and some people love working overnight, some people love working, you know, days. It totally depends on what other people want, but this could change from month to month. And yes, there is a requirement to work weekends, and people think part-time, we just have, you know, evenings and weekends, and you can work around a school schedule or you can work around another job. We just don't necessarily allow that because it's so hard to navigate through that other schedule. So that's kind of a little bit about the cargo job. I believe that this is a great place to start if you're looking to get into aviation and you're not really sure what you want to do, because it gives you the ability to see the operation from the ground up, and you get to actually work on the tarmac, around aircrafts, loading the planes. It's super cool. I've been to this warehouse probably 5 times, and every time I'm still like, my face drops with the plane when I see it up close and personal. So it totally, if you have a passion for aviation, it's definitely a good place to start. The customer service agent, so this is essentially our ticket counter individual. So when you go to the airport, you check in for your flight. These are the people who are giving you that ticket, processing your bag. I'm sure if you've traveled, you're familiar with what this is, but we don't have anything right now at the Ottawa airport. However, positions do become available, but I know that we have positions in like Yellowknife and Edmonton, so in other areas, not specifically Ottawa. But again, super good place to start if you're not really sure what you want to do. And mostly we hire for part-time because of our flight schedule. And it would be early mornings because of the times that our flights do leave the facility. But these are the 2 kind of jobs that I wanted to talk about with you guys today. And then also the cargo attendant position. So like I said, we have an Ottawa one. And then we also have an Iqaluit rotational one too. So it's living in Iqaluit for 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off. But I think we have a couple more positions available in Ottawa than the Iqaluit right now. So yeah, we can talk more maybe in the Q&A if you have specific questions about these 2 positions, but that's essentially what I wanted to speak about today. And then just kind of selling us a little bit more on, why you want to work for us, or why should you work for us? Because, we have lots of different benefits and perks. So one of the things would be medical benefits after 1 month and dental after 6. This is really cool because we actually offer it for our part-time employees as well. So a lot of companies only offer it to full-time, but we have the ability for part-timers to get the same perks. We do offer free kind of travel privileges or reduced travel privileges on our aircraft, so on Canadian North Airlines, and then on other airlines after 6 months of employment. So you can actually fly like Air Canada, WestJet, those larger carriers for a discounted rate. Now this doesn't kick in until 6 months of employment, and it is a standby, so meaning that if the flight's not full, you get on, but it's basically a perk that we do offer, and your family can also explore that perk too. We do have cargo shipment privileges so that you can ship cargo if you needed to. There's lots of advancement opportunities. So like I said, cargo is a really, really good place to start because you get to see the operation from the ground up. And I've seen people start as cargo and move into maybe, operations control or, flight attendant, or move into those other areas because they get a good understanding. We do have a retirement savings program. So this is after 6 months of employment. And it's basically a matching program, but it's a really good perk. And then we do have other discounts too, like car rental, hotels, all that stuff as well. And if you do speak Inuktitut, so that would be the Inuit language, you do get a small premium too in a client-facing position. So yeah, those are a little bit about our perks. And like I said, we can dive a little bit more into those specifically in the Q&A, but if you are interested in applying, so there's a couple things that we can do. I would encourage you to check out our website because there are other positions that I maybe didn't mention today. So check out our website. And then if you are interested, just send a resume directly to the recruit@canadiannorth.com email. This is the best place to send your resume because it goes to all of the HR teams so that we can place you accordingly. You can send it to me, but the best would be probably going to the recruit email for sure. And then we kind of go from there. And I think that's my presentation. Yeah, that's the end.
Okay, I was on mute. Sorry, Danielle. Thank you so much, Danielle, for this wonderful presentation. Personally, I learned a lot, especially a little bit about the Inuit symbol culture, the Inukshuk. So I recognize it because it's in the flag, none of it, right? But I never knew the name. So thank you so much. All right, perfect. And again, a reminder. So yes, please definitely send your resume. However, before you do that, this is just a brief reminder to work on your Canadian style resume with the Job Search Strategies course facilitator with SOPA. If you already were referred to the course, please make sure to complete it. It's really, really important to have a tailored Canadian style resume when applying for jobs. It's really crucial. You could also work with your employment counselor to achieve that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move to the Q&A section right now. I'll stop the recording and then I'll share my screen so we can look at the questions together.